Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. This time we're getting a bigger boat and diving into the original summer blockbuster, Jaws. I'm Tyler.
I'm David.
And I'm Marilee.
But before we go fishing with the 4th of July roast, a thing that exists apparently, I want to say hello and check in with my co-host to find out how things are going for them. In the landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer, what's making y'all scared or what's making you feel prepared?
Well, I have to say that I am scared.
What is making you feel scared this week, Marilee?
I had a migraine this week and it ruined everything. I lost a whole day, and so for the rest of the week I kept being confused about what day it was, and so everything just got so out of schedule. It was a real bummer.
No, we don't like a migraine. We don't like them. They're cyclical.
Do not like them. I used to have them way more often. I don't as much anymore, but I'll still get like 2 or 3 a year, and it ruins my whole vibe.
I get that. Totally. I get tension headaches that are almost as bad as migraines sometimes, but don't have like the aura or the nausea or whatever. But like when it happens, I'm totally out. So I feel you, Marilee. That sounds awful.
Yeah, I got really photosensitive and really, really like noise sensitive. So when it gets bad, I just have to lie in a quiet, dark room and not look at anything. And it's not a great way to spend 12 hours. Let me tell you what.
There were 12 hours this week in which that was probably the ideal way to experience reality, Marilee. But being forced to do that and choosing to do it are two very different experiences.
Absolutely.
Very true. Very true.
Well, you're on the other side of it now. You're feeling better, and we're just hopeful that we're not going to have to deal with this for another 4, 5, 6 months.
Yes. Yeah. Listen, there's a window here, at least for me. I don't know about other migraine sufferers, but like right after I have one, I am more likely to have another one. So I'm going to be really careful with my hydration and a bunch of other stuff to try and make sure that this isn't going to be an issue. But yes, hopefully as soon as we get out of that danger window, we'll be good to go.
No, I don't like this migraine aftershock. That sounds terrible.
Me neither.
I don't know if that's like a common thing, but that's always been for me. Like I'm just, I don't know, more likely to experience another one.
Fair.
Well, I really hope that is done and out of the way, and that this breaks the habit, and that you do not have another one down the pipeline.
Fingers crossed. Again, I'm pretty hopeful. It's been a couple of days now, and we're mostly fine. I hate migraines, gang.
Yeah, I think it's an uncontroversial statement to say, like, we are anti-migraine here.
Yeah. Wow. Pro-migraine people, come for us. Come on the show, pro-migraine people.
Explain
I'd love to
yourself
have a
and your
conversation.
horrible
Debate me,
opinion.
cowards.
Yeah.
What is this? Who are you? Well, Marilee, unfortunately, I can't join you in the scared space. You'd think that I would be normally your ally, but I am coming this week prepared.
No, I love this. Tell me why.
Yeah. I am the owner now. Consumerism is what's making me happy, and that's maybe not great, but I am the owner of a Switch 2 now with magnets. And I truly and honestly, I can't speak to this being a purchase that I think anyone who's a huge fan of like the Switch should make. It hasn't dramatically changed my life, except for the fact that it has given me an excuse to replay Zelda. And did you know that Zelda's now on your phone while it's also on your Switch?
What?
There's a companion app where it can like give you directions to things. It's it has been how I've been filling my time. So it has left me feeling like ready to go with the world.
Fascinating. Wow.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's like turn left. And I'm like, I love turning left. Let's go.
Well, David, sometimes a little consumerism as a treat is okay. So I think,
absolutely,
especially in 2025, we need to find our joy where we can take it.
Listen,
that's true.
As long as the terrors are continuing, so will the little treats.
Right.
So real.
And while it's not, it doesn't carry a lot of particular value for me. It was a birthday purchase. So I was happy to, my husband got it for me. I think it was like really nice and well thought through present. There's a tinge of scared in all of this because I haven't bought a video game system since we moved here. And so I had to change my account to be a European account. Otherwise it would not allow me to experience the thing that I had purchased with all of its online doodads. And now the Nintendo eShop is permanently in Spanish. I can't even say like, I live here, but please put the language in English. It refuses to do that. But luckily, comprar balatro, I know how to say that. Like, buy balatro, like, duh. So it is well within my Spanish talents, but it is very shocking. Not that I was going to ever read the terms and conditions in English, so like I'm going to skip all that anyway. But the big important things I got.
Wow.
Yeah,
and this will help you retain that Spanish knowledge.
Sure.
Oh yeah, that is true. That's good. Immersion's always great.
That's true. That's true. I know the word for search is buscar. I know the term for purchase.
Yeah, you got it.
You're
totally fine. You're totally fine.
I also knew buscar because I am on, gay dating apps in Spain, and people are like, "Que buscas?" And like, calm the fuck down, "Que buscas?" Looking for nothing. Get out of here.
You're a delight.
Wow. Spanish is such a wonderful language.
Tyler, que buscas for you? What are you feeling this week? What are you looking for this week? Are you feeling scared or prepared?
David, what's the Spanish word for scared?
Great question. That is a great question.
Estoy scared this week, everybody. So I have traveled back in time, as it were, to last summer. So obviously, I know what we did last summer, and I know what David did last summer, and a lot of that had to do with socializing and being afraid. Now I am taking on the David mantle because I am socializing too much, and it makes me afraid.
See,
oh, buddy.
All these friends, we've been hearing about it for a few weeks now, and I've been so happy every time, but a dark part of me was like, it's too much. It's too much for my little baby.
Yes.
What was the breaking point, Tyler? What made this toggle turn to the scared position?
I had people ask me to hang out.
Like, want to hang out? That was the thing that did it? That was your ghost face moment, was want to hang out?
It happened more than once.
Oh, the pylon. Okay.
Yes. I have I noticed I have a domino effect in my life where I'm like feeling in a good space and I'm just like, yeah, I'll set stuff up. And then things happen and then I'm like, oh no, things have happened. And those things happen to be socializing. And I'm a very like, stay in the house, I'm going to play video games, the outside world can't get me. It's 95 degrees outside and it's 69 in my apartment.
The right temperature.
Perfect. It's nice.
It's nice.
It's nice. But now I have a couple people that are asking me to hang out. And of course, I do love hanging out with these people. I love making new friends. I do love socializing when it happens. It's the lead up to it that kills me. The idea of like, oh my God, I must move from my cocoon of safety to go talk to other people and be in other places that are not my own.
Right.
Horrible. Who invented this?
But and have you considered that the cocoon is like safe and pretty and wonderful and you know it very well?
Exactly. I know where everything is. Yeah. I can poop wherever I want without anxiety.
You can poop wherever you want without anxiety. I mean,
maybe I probably shouldn't poop wherever I want in my apartment, but I know where I can poop without anxiety.
That's true. Okay.
There's the bidet. And yeah, I do love it. I know it's good for me, but I'm afraid of people asking me to do social things, and then I have multiple like commitments, and now I've also got family coming.
Oh,
I've got a friend coming in a couple weeks that's staying for a while.
Ooh, staying over.
Staying over. Like, now you see my concern. I'm simply doing too many things. And then our listeners on the other end who are normal and like socializing with people are like, Tyler, get over it. It's good for you. To which I say, you're right, but I'm going to complain about it the whole time.
Do you think that the average podcast listener is more like the person you're describing or more like the three of us and being like, yay, cocoon and podcasts?
I think most people are more normal than me. So
Wow.
That's just like my default assumption.
We will have to unpack that later.
Yeah, we don't have time. We have time to talk. We have to talk about a shark.
That's true. That's true. We are talking about Jaws, one of the primary antagonists in the James Bond film, The Spy Who Loved Me. No, this week we are talking about Jaws, the 1975 movie directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Peter Benchley and Carl Gottlieb, based on the book by Peter Benchley. This movie was so popular that it changed the way Hollywood operated and is credited with creating the summer blockbuster as a concept. It also recently celebrated its 50th anniversary, so happy belated birthday, Jaws.
So this 50-year-old movie follows Martin Brody, the new sheriff of a small beachside town called Amity, as he deals with a series of deadly shark attacks. He's joined by a shark scientist named Hooper and a fisherman named Quint in trying to take down the massive beast. But Brody also has to deal with Mayor Vaughn as an obstacle in keeping people safe.
Spawning 3 sequels, endless parodies, and a pretty excellent, in my opinion, theme park attraction, Jaws' legacy is vast. So what are your relationships with Jaws or the Jaws cinematic universe? Which is a bit I will continue doing, no matter how you never laugh at this, but I still think it's funny.
It works for you. It works for you, and that means that it works barely. Here's the deal. I have never seen anything else Jaws, and I have not been on this theme park ride. But I can't remember a time in my life in which I hadn't seen this film. And that, I think, might be the first time we've done that for this podcast. I usually have a particular memory. I do, of course, remember the many times that I've seen this film, one of them being in a pool with a bunch of other people while they played the movie on the screen, which I think is a fairly common thing that people have had the chance to experience. But yeah, I don't think I have watched it since college. So it has been 24 years since I've seen this film, maybe even 25.
Wow. Half the life of the movie.
That's true. That's true. And almost half the life of me.
Well, I have been in a similar boat, the Orca, to you, David, where I don't remember a time where I hadn't seen Jaws. I think I might have shark DNA because of that fact, and because I have seen the movie so many times. It is every summer watch with my family. My mother, who is a frequent mention on the show, is such a beach person that she loves Jaws to the point that she's going to get a Jaws tattoo. Like, she
wow.
She's covered in tattoos. Like, it's crazy how I have no tattoos and she's got like 12.
No, that actually tracks.
That does track out,
well, yeah.
Well, you know what? Fuck you both. So
read, yeah. No, so wait, we gotta focus on Tyler's mom for a second. Do you know what the tattoo will be?
I'm not sure yet. We just talked about it the other day when I was watching Jaws, because I told her, hey, I'm gonna watch Jaws for the pod, and she said, oh my god, I'll watch Jaws too. And then she said, you know, I'll get a tattoo. So I don't know what it's gonna be yet. I said maybe like a shark tooth or a fin or something.
Could be like the orca's like life preserver.
Oh, yeah, that too. I think she's such a beachy person, though. I think she's going to end up getting like a shark.
Mm-hmm. Well, we
but
love it.
Yes, I have seen this movie a billion times. I love it. I know it by heart. Steven Spielberg, come on the pod, and I'll cry because you're my hero.
Steven Spielberg, come on the podcast.
Yeah, no, like, genuinely, Steven Spielberg, if you're listening, anything you want to talk about, my man.
It's funny because come on the podcast is usually a threat when we say it. But this time it feels very earnest, and I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Marilee, please, you are our Jaws expert at the end of the day. Tell us your experience with Jaws.
I don't know how that happened, because this is actually, I was going to say, like, this is a point of commonality. I know that Tyler and I talk a lot about the fact that we lived, like, very close together, despite the fact that, like, where we grew up, never any had contact. But this is a thing that you and I have in common. We watched this movie all the time. Like, when I was growing up, the mark of It's Finally Summer was that you could find Jaws on cable and watch it. Because, like, it happened, like, they would show Jaws a lot, but, like, as soon as it started getting hot, like, they would put it on more. And, like, that's summer's here, Jaws is on TV. That was always a thing. Summer hasn't started unless you've seen Jaws, and so I watched Jaws many, many, many times. I don't know if I've seen Jaws 2, but I've definitely seen parts of 3 and 4, which I do not recommend, by the way. But
you don't... Wait, you don't like Jaws 3D, where we just have a slow motion shark that's a still image slowly moving in closer, closer?
I got nothing on this. I
don't recommend Jaws 3D. I also don't recommend Jaws 4, even though it has Michael Caine in it.
I do like Michael Caine. Is it a
Yes.
Is it a phoned in Michael Caine, or is it a?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Oh, okay.
Michael Caine is famously quoted as saying that he's never seen Jaws, but it paid for a great house.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. It's a very silly movie. But I love Jaws. I've always loved Jaws. I saw Jaws on the water, like the Alamo Draft House does like this big event where they show Jaws at like a lake here in Texas, which I've been to. I went like in 2019, I think.
That is so cool.
It was really, really awesome. I'll never do it again. But I had a really great time.
Tyler, have you done any version of a dive-in when it comes to any film, even? But Jaws, I think, is probably the most famous type of dive-in film.
I need to repeat, the place where I live is safety cocoon that I don't leave.
Okay.
Listen, I think that does your new place have like a yard or like a balcony or something?
Yeah, we do have a little back patio.
Okay, here's what you do. You get one of those kiddie inflatable pools, and you get a projector, and you watch Jaws in the kiddie inflatable pool.
Okay, I'll make it work. My patio is full of spiders, though.
Well,
oh, God, no.
That feels like a bad
No,
idea.
Tyler, no. Look, I changed my answer to scared again. It's spiders in Tyler's patio.
Is that the plot of Jaws 2, that he teams up with arachnids and then they like terrorize people in apartment buildings? Like,
Jaws arachnophobia crossover. It's happening 2026.
Listen.
Please don't do this to me, because I will watch every shark movie. I'm very excited for Dangerous Animals, the new hot shark movie this movie. I said movie this movie. Excuse me. It's the new hot shark movie this summer. So don't make it also a spider film. I will hate you forever for that.
Shark spiders.
Speaking though of other sharks, I will say this is the only shark movie that I am familiar with. I have watched no others, even though The Meg has been highly recommended.
You would like Meg, I think.
Okay, I probably would, because I had a friend named Meg and she was a hoot. And if she was a shark, it would be fun.
Meg is great. The Blake Lively shark movie is great. 47 Meters Down is great.
Oh, my mother loves
movies.
The Blake Lively shark movie.
Is that the name of the film, The Blake Lively Shark Movie?
No, I forget what it's Shallows. Or
yes,
something.
The Shallows.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Blake Lively shark movie.
Great. Listen,
yeah,
you got that.
The Blake Lively shark movie that Tyler's mom loves.
Great.
Yeah,
That's
the full actual literal title.
I will ask for that when I go into the Blockbuster down the street.
Wonderful.
They'll know what you mean.
Well, for movie titles that have a wonderful economy of words, let's talk about Jaws as opposed to the Blake Lively shark movie that Tyler's mom loves that David's going to rent from the nearby video rental store in Madrid. Our first theme for Jaws is a beast that never stops feeding. Sharks are one of nature's most perfect killing machines, with some species of shark evolving before Saturn had rings, and that is a fear-coded fact, which is true, and changed very little between then and now. But in some ways, Amity Island is stalked by another villain whose uncaring and voracious appetite puts human lives at risk: capitalism. Concerns by the mayor and the town council keep the beaches open long after they're proven unsafe because they think the risk to their business is too great.
Yeah, this is wild because we can't normally... I would blame Ronald Reagan, but this is a pre-Ronald Reagan film. I can't even point the finger where it usually belongs. This is just old school capitalism. Ugh, Adam Smith, what are you doing here? That's Ronald Reagan's space.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, capitalism at the end of the day, we're pretty staunchly anti-capitalist on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, if we had a different vibe for the show, like if we were like, we're going to point out how capitalism is the villain in all horror movies, we probably have a lot of success because capitalism is so omnipresent in everything that we touch and interact with. even the art that we enjoy, such as Jaws.
Right.
So
the sort of meta on that is that this created Hollywood capitalism in a way that we just hadn't seen before, to the point that like this film made worldwide $460 million in 1975, 1976. P.S. Jaws was released in January here in Spain, which is insane, and also has ruined everything I searched for this film, because Google AI kept being like, "Didn't you mean Jaws 1976?" And I was like, I truly do not. But it everyone then wanted their movie to be Jaws. And one of the things I saw is that the pitch for Alien was Jaws in space. I hate that, because Alien is, there's a much different vibe to Alien, but it just seems wild that everything sort of had to be pitched as like, it'll be as big as Jaws.
And I mean, that is kind of true. There's always a new movie that becomes like the biggest. We have to make a new something. Like it turned into, we have to make a new Star Wars. We have to make a new
Die Hard,
a new Avatar, like
a new Avengers,
a new event, like all of it. It's always the case. So yes, David, I think that's actually a great call out. That is kind of like the progenitor of the capitalist machine that we struggle with in Hollywood. But like taking it to something more recent and personal. Like, this movie became very popular during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially back in 2020 in the U.S., because there are a lot of commonalities between the plot of the movie and what the government and businesses were interested in during that time period.
And what's fascinating to me is that I did not know about that, because when I think that was happening was the summer of 2020 itself. And I was a little preoccupied during the summer of 2020 because I worked in public health then. And so I wasn't part of any discourse because I was working 120, 130, 140 hour weeks. And so it's wild to see this note from Tyler, because when I watched this, I thought, yikes, I have not seen this since the pandemic. I was like a little shitty kid the last time I saw this and was like, ugh, this boring town stuff, more shark. And now I'm like, ugh, this shark, more town drama, more politics. Give me a West Wing spin on Amity, and like I want to see some like fast-paced dialogue of people convincing each other that public health has a value. To the point that when I was doing background on this, I saw that Spielberg referenced that some of the influence for the film was the Ispen play, An Enemy of the People, which is about a doctor who is like, hey, everyone's getting like this strange fungal infection from a local spring. And the townspeople are like, no, the spring feeds our families. And they like terrorize the doctor and his wife and like burn his house down and shit. Or even the 1 year ago from this film, Rhinoceros, which is a film about everyone turning into rhinoceri, and the person who's like, we're being turned into rhinoceroses, never being believed by anyone in the town until it's too late. It just does.
What are you talking about, David?
We can cover it. It's horror. I mean, it is horrifying. But it's a public health film now, because you look at it and it's about public health education. And it's just so wild to think about this now. And I kind of wish that was part of the discourse, but I just simply didn't have the time.
No, David, you were busy with very important life-saving stuff.
Well,
so that's understandable. But yeah, no, back in 2020, there were a lot of memes that were being thrown around, a lot of references to Jaws, because the mayor Amity talked about the importance of keeping everything open. The quarantine, quote unquote, for the beach would only be for 24 hours after the authority person said it would be all summer. It was just a lot of this combat between the forces of capital and the forces of good, essentially.
Yeah, right.
And it was very resonant during that time.
It's just a really... Every time I watch this movie, I'm struck again by how sharp the critique is, and it gets sharper every year. I just think it's fantastic. Apparently, I've not read the book. The Jaws book has no business for me. It's why movie Jaws is king. But apparently in the book, the mayor has like a debt that he has to the mob, and that's why he wants things to stay open. I'm so glad Spielberg cut that. That's such nonsense.
Boo. We don't need that. Get rid of that. It's
the book. This is one of the times where the book is objectively worse than the movie. Which is funny because Peter Benchley was one of the people that adapted the movie.
Sure.
From his novel.
Sure. There's some weird historical background on that too that we simply don't have time for.
I love that though.
When I did the notes and I said that it was written by them, but in the credits they were only credited for like the screenplay, and I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but this is as quickly as I could do it, so here we are.
Well, our next theme is When Will I Be an Islander? Amity is a pretty insular community for a tourist town. Mrs. Brody is told explicitly that she will never be considered one of the community, and during the marina scene, it's made pretty clear that the islanders will only listen to another islander. Sheriff Brody is told again and again that he doesn't understand how things are here. Would the initial death have been covered up if she was a local girl? Would people have taken his concerns more seriously if Brody was an Amity native?
This is the thought of this theme, and rewatching it just prior to our conversation made me wonder, like, is Jaws actually a folk horror? Because the horror comes from the sea, but that is also the livelihood of the people. They are insular. They are doing that folk horror thing where they don't trust an outsider. An outsider who's also a sheriff gave me a little bit of Midnight Mass vibes. Like, there's a lot of ground that we have tread before, and I just wondered, does this hold any water to be a folk horror?
I love that.
There's
singing. I think it's pretty legit, David, to make that pull. I think the only thing that throws a wrench in there is that the Islanders are very anti the entity that is affecting the town.
That's true.
But I mean, you could also say like the thing that they worship is capital as opposed to the shark, and the shark is the outsider, which I mean, technically it is. Like,
technically it is.
It's this thing that has intruded into their lives and has thrown everything asunder.
Yeah.
And that's what we see our outsiders do repeatedly in horror movies.
But I love how just saturated this is in the first act of things like telling the wife of the sheriff that she'll never be an islander, which is just like such a shitty thing to tell someone. Like, you'll never be a local. Or when they're arguing about all the people in the marina being like, those aren't my people, as if like your duty to serve doesn't include other humans if they're not your humans. And then the whole thing, and it sort of carries us all the way to Act 3, which I think is an important conflict point, of not contacting the Coast Guard because we can take care of this locally.
Yep, it was under local jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's a shark. It's not. Like...
No.
Yeah.
God, that's such a really great poll. I love that. I just think that one of the very first conversations in the movie is between Brody and the guy who was with Chrissy in the first scene, who like passes out drunk on the beach, and Brody is talking to him about this girl, and he's trying to get information because she's a missing persons. And he's like, so do you live here? And he's like, no, I am going to school here, my parents live here. But he asks, but you're an islander. He's like, yeah, I was born here. So like, he doesn't live here anymore. He's just here to party, basically, but he is still more of a local than Brody, who lives here and is sheriff.
I think one of the reasons why, Marilee, this movie kind of sticks with us in particular is because where we lived, we also had kind of a similar vibe to Amity, especially when we were younger. Like, because Marilee and I grew up on the southwestern coast of Florida, which is a very touristy area, also very beachy.
Snowbird season
is a major issue where we have all the tourists from the northern part of the US and Canada and even other countries come over, and they are the lifeblood to these communities that we lived in, but they also have their own problems like clogging the roadways, etc. But there was kind of this idea that if you're a local, you kind of detest the tourists. You kind of detest the people who come down and move and then try to act like they belong here because they're not the ones who have to deal with the problems that we deal with as the local community. And so I do feel like this is a very real theme. And so, Marilee, I'm glad that you brought it up here because I think that this is like, it kind of touches on reality, and I think that's another part of why the movie is so good is because we know people like the ones in this movie. And so everything feels very like visceral and real, but also because the ideas are ones that are comprehensible and feel like down to earth. I understand what these people are complaining about because I've been in their shoes, you know? So I think that's another really cool part of this movie, and I think it's another special reason why Marilee and I have like a personal kinship to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, and the thing about this theme is it works really well hand in hand with the previous one, because again, another earlier conversation, in the film, they talk about the people who are going to be coming to the town not as human beings, but they call them explicitly summer dollars instead of humans. And I think that that's a really interesting thing to keep in mind from the island point of view.
Totally. So our final theme is man versus nature, one of the most common themes in literature. At the end of the day, Jaws is a story about three men in a boat hunting for a shark as it hunts them. Simple as fact, simple as day.
You know, you say that, but I had this visceral memory before I went to sit down and watch this film that there was like an ecological component to all of this that like existed in birds that I didn't remember. And so I was like, oh yeah, there's a reason the shark is there. We're going to explore the reason for that, so that there is sort of a deservedness to the horrors. And they're truly and honestly, I mean, Marilee has seen further instances of this series, so maybe we'll go back and retcon some of this. But it isn't like we opened an offshore drilling thing and that pushed the shark over here and we need all this backstory. Nope, there's just a shark.
Yeah, there's a backstory in the fourth one, because in the fourth one, it's like, this is the mother of the other sharks who's here for revenge, and that's why it's Jaws for the Revenge.
I love that.
Which is insane,
Get it, mama.
By the way.
Like, yes. Queen. No, but I actually liked that there was nothing there. I think, backfilled my own memory that I was waiting for this. And by the time we were aboard the Orca in the third act, when it truly is just a hunting film, like I was like, oh yeah, we're never going to talk about this. And that's actually better. The film is better for that.
Yeah, I love that. My thing is that part of the reason why I think this theme is so funny, because it's a very man versus nature film. Except if you learn anything about the behind the scenes production of this film, there's a very compelling duality, because I think the filming of Jaws is an incredible struggle between man versus technology, and I love that.
Yeah, the Bruce the Shark is so if you watch Jaws this summer on Peacock, which is the NBC Universal streaming platform in the US, there's a little like intro by Steven Spielberg himself, and he references this, that the shark Bruce that they used was a huge drama queen, and that it was constantly breaking down. There were constant problems with it. The salt water was eroding its innards. Like it was just the worst fucking contraption available, and the production went over schedule and over budget, and Spielberg thought he would never get another job in this town again, especially because this was only his second movie that he ever fucking made, and it ends up becoming this masterpiece. So I think, Marilee, I love calling that out, because I think that's such like, we don't have time for this. This is going to be a long episode anyway, but do yourself a favor, check out information about Jaws, the man versus the technology of it all, the behind the scenes, because it is such a treat. Personally, I think that the shark is kind of interesting in that it's a little bit of like a you could throw anything you want at it and it kind of makes sense in terms of interpreting it. I think we talked about during the Birds episode how a lot of criticism, like literary criticism of Jaws, is that the shark is like a metaphor for nature's revenge against man for creating nuclear weapons. During the time period that this was made, that was a very hot button issue. And so that is one of the things that could be resonant. I think it's also kind of like interesting to see it as like the violence of capital. The shark is here and it's eating people, and yet, we have to keep the machine alive that is making the shark eat people, because how else are we going to make money? And that's what capital does, and capitalism in general, is that it kind of eats you no matter what, either as like the victim who doesn't have the money, or it eats your spirit and your soul if you are the person, if you're like part of the bourgeoisie, like the super fancy people that have all the money and are pushing us down. I think the shark is also just kind of like an interesting like conflict as like a primal fear of nature. Like, you know, we think of the ocean as being vast and beautiful, but it's also very mysterious and scary, and we don't know a whole lot about it. So what if this creature from the depths comes up and starts eating humans because we've treaded into their space? I think it's just such a wonderful concept for a movie. I think it's not really surprised that if you look at any shark movie today, it has Jaws DNA in it. Like, no matter what, it is an inescapable fact. It's like Catholics and original sin. You're born with it. So is every shark movie. It's born with Jaws DNA.
We're really just going to hit on every theme month that we've talked about so far. There are teens in this. They get eaten by a shark. We'll just go the whole
animal.
Listen,
for February.
It's funny how we didn't talk about Jaws in our natural horror episode, because I think there's shark DNA in like fucking Strays. I think Jaws informed that.
Yeah. Jaws really is that girl at the end of the day. Like, even if it's not trying to be a blockbuster, everybody wants what Jaws has.
Right.
Totally.
Well, now it's time for us to consider the criteria that we use to evaluate every piece of media that we cover on the podcast. And I have the duty this week of asking the most perfunctory question that has ever been asked in all of our recording history. But is Jaws horror? Discuss.
You know, a controversial opinion, David. No,
wow.
I don't think so.
No.
Wow. That is controversial.
It's actually a musical. The shark is singing along to the Jaws theme every time.
I'm there because we do. I'm familiar with the John Williams score, but it has been decades. And when we get into like the fun little ditties, this score slaps on all levels.
Yeah.
I will say this is probably the scariest thing that I have watched for the podcast.
Even scarier than the Babadook?
Yeah, I think the scares on this were better than the scares on the Babadook. I think the scares on the Babadook were fantastic. But I think I do think probably the overall horror of Amelia's story in the Babadook was worse than the story of Jaws. But I'm carrying a lot of trauma. So I was pretty traumatized in Act 2 of this film. And I know a lot of that's me things, but every shark scare worked for me. And it worked for me even though I know I have seen them a dozen times. It worked for me like it was the first time today. I also understand culturally that, you know, people didn't want to go into the ocean. People didn't want to swim. We thought sharks were everywhere. This set ecology and ecological efforts to preserve sharks back decades because of this film, and Spielberg has like apologized openly for what he considers a sin against humanity that this film represents, that's tragic, but that's just people being stupid.
Yeah, you're right. This is, God, it's so good. I love this movie.
Yeah, we're big shark fans here. Like, that's something to keep in mind as well. Like, David, I actually even love that you brought up that, because, like, yeah, shark ecology was set back decades, and I think they're still scrambling to recover because shit is scary. This is a scary-ass movie.
Yeah!
Sharks exist, and they're big with big shark teeth. It's not like the Babadook, who is, like, a metaphor for, you know, grief and guilt and all this other shit. It's real. It's gonna try and fucking eat you.
Grief,
for real.
Famously not real.
Okay, I have to leave it now immediately. No. I just mean that the Babadook.
No.
I'm not gonna I have a better chance of getting attacked by a shark than getting attacked by a Babadook.
That is correct. But even
true.
that is a very low chance of happening. But I will say...
Exactly.
I will say that well, again, we're just comparing one thing, but if I look at any of the other things that we've covered, the scares that we got in Until Dawn, for example, which that was probably the second most jump scariest thing that we've had, they're effective, but they're not as effective as the practicality of Jaws and the way in which, and we've brought it up a dozen times in this podcast, the way in which Bruce the Shark is actually hidden from our view, which was done both tactically because it's expensive and the shark sucked to operate, and then is evocative because we're filling in all the gaps ourselves, very Hitchcockian Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go with it.
Yeah, let's go with it. Yeah, no, this is an effective, scary movie, which means
yes.
Merrily, don't we have another question?
Yeah, I thought we could just skip it for this one. No. Here's the thing. Simply and honestly, being scary is not enough. Here on Fear Coded, we have to ask, is it queer? And I think I've made myself very clear. This is a gay-ass movie.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, what makes you think that this is a gay-ass movie?
Guys, this is Three Men on a Boat.
Yeah, I've watched that video.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, me too. It was weird how they all dressed up like the characters in Jaws.
For a little while,
no, like
at least.
they are all. It's Three Men on a Boat. They're like, there's a scene in the movie. It's iconic, one of the most famous scenes in film, of them like comparing their scars, and they're touching each other's bodies with their body parts. Like, it's just like a whole thing. But I think also like the act of communion with three dudes, and they're together and they are in a primal sort of environment doing something that is also primal, I think kind of creates a sort of community that you could say is like, I don't know, they're not talking shit about women, so I'm going to say this is like positive masculinity. Yeah. Even though they are, each of them, kind of toxic in their own way, but they, they're open with each other, they're honest with each other. After a certain point, they bare their souls to each other, and I think that is a very queer thing to do, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of our ideology of what is considered like a good heterosexual man is that you keep your feelings to yourself, and you're strong, and you don't listen to women, and you don't listen to anyone else because you're your own king, right? But here they are actually working together. They go from butting heads quite a bit to actually collaborating. We see their like antagonism towards each other softens quite a lot, because they're open, because they had this moment of vulnerability with one another. And it's enough that eventually, like, it's a bittersweet ending by every sense of the imagination, but it is still one where they are able to defeat the shark. Because if they had not come together in this way, you could make the argument that they would not have been able to defeat the shark.
Fair.
Yeah.
What about the rest of you? Do you feel like there's some queerness happening in this movie?
Men create intricate rituals in order to touch skin to skin.
They do, and they truly do. And that sequence that Tyler talks about is very intimate. But I feel like I said this before on another podcast recording of ours, but the shark is gay. Like,
expand on that.
I think the shark represents queerness. I think we describe the shark as a rogue agent, that it is different from other sharks, and that is what has brought it to this land. It is just living the way that it is meant to live, and it is the operation of a heteronormative society that is attempting to harpoon, sink, and then capture and kill our queer hero, which is the shark.
Our limp-finned hero.
He is perfect, and I will hear no criticisms otherwise. Yes, he is a terror, but also, like, we all can be if we didn't get our iced coffee. And so I say, go shark go, kill pussycat kill.
Yes. Yeah. Again, the shark isn't trying to be a bad guy. It's just hungry. He's hungry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if the beaches were allowed to be closed after Chrissy died, then Bruce would have just simply left, and capitalism is the real villain here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm actually excited to sort of track the shark as being gay as we talk through the beat by beat, because I do think that there are some other queer readings that we can draw out of this. In particular, the sort of outsiderness of the three men, the outsiderness of the shark. Are we to call the shark Jaws? Is Jaws the shark's name, or do we just call it the shark?
Shark, Bruce, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Bruce is his more name than Jaws is his name.
Jaws
Bruce is his government name.
Okay, Jaws is his, like, profession. I got it. That's my job, not my name. Well then, are we ready to jump? We this is clearly queerly clear. Shall we jump into the beat by beat for Jaws?
Let's do it.
Well, the film opens with a couple leaving a beach bonfire to go skinny dipping. The man falls asleep undressing himself, so Christine swims out alone. While John Williams' iconic score plays, she is killed by a shark. The next morning, Sheriff Brody finds what's left of the body. When the medical inspector gives his preliminary report finding that she died from a shark attack, Brody swings into action, getting supplies to make beach close signs and trying to cancel related water activities. Mayor Vaughn hears about what happens, so he meets with Brody and brings the city council and coroner with him. Vaughn states that Brody doesn't understand what a shark attack could mean for Amity and posits that she died from a boating accident, which the coroner immediately agrees with. Brody doesn't really believe them, but he can't do anything else. Right away, I've got to say, the photography through the ocean is very, very stark. The underwater photography that shoots up at Chrissy is fantastic. We are in the mood right away. And it's wild to me because we've watched so many other things for this that one of the biggest scares of the film is in the first 90 seconds. That is pretty intense as a decision to let you know about the horrors that are to come from this.
Absolutely.
And, oh boy, what an opening.
Oh, what an opening.
This is oft parodied because, again, as we've noticed in a lot of the movies where there are parodies made from them, this is a very iconic, visually resonant scene. This is something that I think is one of the most famous scenes in film history. And again, it's shot so well. It has ripple effects down the line into other films that we see, especially horror movies, shark movies. This is just one of those things where when you're watching this, you're watching film history, and I think that is a wonderful thing for us to experience.
Jaws is that girl.
Jaws really is that girl. Honestly, so much of what we experience in these opening scenes is such great economical storytelling. We have cut away so much of the fat that's in Benchley's original novel. We are focusing only on the most essential things, but Spielberg does this thing, which I've talked a lot about 70s movies doing, that we have time to experience the real humanity of our characters. There is not really irony. There's no malevolent sense behind the camera of this character. This is truly just this is our hero, but he's also when we meet Brody, this is our hero, but he's also a hero that's been burdened, which is very common for the 70s. So I think that is really cool. And just we hit the plot beats that we need to hit to make sure that we know what the stakes are.
Yeah. I honestly can't believe this is Spielberg's second movie that he filmed. I mean, I can, but what the hell? And I know it's passé to say it now. Sure, of course he's a great director, but holy shit, this man came out swinging, and there is a reason why he is one of the biggest directors in the world.
Yeah. And while we talked around some of the tumultuousness of the script as it ended up, I think Tyler's right that there is so much good, brilliant economical story writing. The line that stood out to me was Brody waking up and saying, "How come the sun didn't used to shine in here?" And his wife responding, "Well, this is our, we moved in the fall. This is our first summer." And she doesn't even say this is her first summer. I'm filling in that gap because that's the sort of thing that a novice writer would do, is they'd be like, "Well, honey, it's our first summer here in Amity. I hope a giant shark doesn't eat a bunch of people." But instead, it does this thing perfectly by being like, "Oh, I've never noticed this light before because this is the first time the sun's been in that position." It's fucking brilliant.
Yes, totally.
This world is so immediately lived in. It's incredible.
And I just clapped my hand by accident, but it's how passionate I feel about this. It's such a wonderful notion that I think is lost in films made nowadays, that we can no longer trust our audience. We have to treat them like babies. Yeah. So I don't have a big stake against Marvel, but I will say a Marvel movie might have done exactly what David described, because those are very popular for being simple and easy to just kind of understand, turn your brain off, sort of high quality entertainment, right? But here, again, we are trusting our audience, and I think that intelligence and respect towards the audience is part of what we really get to enjoy so much with the remainder of the film, especially in these first two acts where the conflict is against Vaughn and the city council.
Absolutely. And you just, what a really great point. I don't think that the Hollywood or producers or somebody would allow scenes to go this long because they would be concerned about people looking at their phones during the movie while you're watching it. And that's not a concern here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So later, all of Amity Island is at the beach, including a young boy named Alex Kittner, his mother, and his yellow inflatable float, or life raft kind of thing. The Brody family is also there, as well as a man playing with his dog Tippet. Sheriff Brody is hypervigilant about something going wrong in the water, but lets his kids go swimming anyway. Tippet goes missing, and then there's a scream from the ocean and an explosion of blood.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. There's so much blood. It really is just an explosion is such a great description.
Yes.
Alex Kittner's floaty washes up on shore, bloody and bitten. At a town council meeting, Brody is overruled again about closing the beaches. Quint offers to hunt the shark for $10,000, as opposed to the $3,000 bounty offered by Mrs. Kittner.
All right, let's do a couple of these things beat by beat, because I want to be on the beach for a second to talk about the famous dolly zoom that is deployed here.
It's so good.
It is so effectively utilized, and it is a flavor that you can only taste once in a film, unless you're doing parody, and then you can do it 6 or 7 times, which is funny. But it is used perfectly, and how it is done is you zoom out the focus of the camera while you push the camera in on the subject, and that's what creates that effect. The effect was first done by Earman Roberts, who was an uncredited second assistant on the film Vertigo. But Vertigo made $8 million box office, and Jaws made $440 million box office. So this is often called a Jaws zoom, even though the dolly zoom originated a few years earlier.
It's iconic.
It is. Honestly, I'm so happy that you bring up Hitchcock, even though Hitchcock is not the creator of the zoom. I've also heard it called like a Hitchcock zoom.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of Hitchcock in this movie, which I think is partially what makes the suspense so good, is that, David, you mentioned this, Spielberg didn't show the shark so much because of technical difficulties, but it also amplifies the horror, which is something that Hitchcock really espoused quite a bit. We see that in Psycho, for instance. And so when we see a lot of the suspense, the foreshadowing in this movie, you also have to kind of get reminded of Hitchcock as a result. And I think that's part of what Spielberg had in mind, because if you know about Spielberg, even a little bit, you might know that he was a huge film buff, crazy film was his life. It took over his mind. If you watch The Fabelmans, that's kind of a fictionalized version of that, but it's cool to see Spielberg be a film nerd in his own movie.
Yeah. And
especially a movie that became a movie that new film nerds freak out about. I also think it's kind of interesting how well Jaws parallels the U.S. response to COVID-19. So we did talk about this in our beginning, but I think this sequence of scenes really kind of encapsulates it. Yeah. We had Vaughn saying, we're not going to close the beaches. It's just a boat accident. Then there's consequences to that. Okay, we are going to close the beaches, but only for 24 hours. Okay, well, you ignore the experts, and now there's consequences to that. And so on and so forth, because at the end of the day, everything has to be open, businesses have to run, people have to make money, the government has to function, etc. Screw everyone else, right? And unfortunately, that happened in real life, and it became really resonant to people in the U.S. and abroad, I'm sure, who saw Jaws and said, well, Trump is acting like Mayor Vaughn. Or the government response is a lot like the government's response in Jaws, or business's response, etc. And so it's kind of cool how we can see how art is not just political, but it's also resonant and will last a long time. And the importance of art in general, because we had something to give our feelings to, and we encapsulated it in Jaws.
Well, I think a lot of that gets laid down at the feet of Vaughn, and I really like Vaughn as a character and what a absolute shit he is. He does a great job, but I do think it's actually the actions of the bourgeois that struck me a little bit more of my trauma around COVID-19 and the response to the pandemic, because it's one thing for a leader to push certain things, but it's another for an entire community to say, the only way I know how to do business is business as usual. And the only way we can do business as usual is to just pretend that we are back in business as usual and to ignore the shark. And we get a couple of really good moments on that, but I love I think she's the hotel owner is what we are meant to do.
She owns a motel, definitely, but she's also friends with Mrs. Brody.
Yeah, and she is the one who sort of calls the question and gets this going, and it is the riled up community that hit me more than Vaughn, because all Vaughn's trying to do, and this is true for weak leaders everywhere. Weak leaders see their people and they go, where are my people going? I need to go figure out where they're going so that I can lead them, because they'll follow me because I'm their leader. And yet what you should do as a leader is think about what your community needs, what will keep them safe and healthy, and help them ultimately get happy. And because of the capitalism of all this. And, this is where the movie is solidly in the mid-70s, because we are in this sort of reconstructive era and money is flowing freely. We're not quite to a point of austerity that, the money makes a big deal to Amity. And you can even hear background response to the 24-hour hold. Well, that 24 hours, that will feel like weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the conclusion of the town hall scene where we meet Quint for the first time.
Oh, Quint, marry me.
Really?
I all three of these men, Tyler, I apologize to you. Once they're on the Orca. Right now, a meet cute between me and Quint could not happen in a town hall where he used his nails on a chalkboard. It's just not, I don't care what you look like. It's not working for me. But Quint is he's excellent. I love him.
For me, it's Brody and Hooper, but not Quint.
Sure. Okay.
Quint is a little too, I can fix him, and I've had to learn to stay away from I can fix him.
I can fix him.
But yeah, wow, what a famous scene when we're meeting Robert Shaw's character, Quint, for the first time. He's scratching his nails on the chalkboard, and he's talking about, he's clearly a person that, first of all, knows how to be, the center of attention, but he's also someone that people are clearly, freaked out and afraid of.
Yeah.
Because he's that weird dude on the boat.
Yeah.
He's that weird, creepy fisherman.
He never introduces himself as such. He's just you all know me, you know what I do.
Yeah.
He does not spell that out for us, the audience, until we get towards the end, where we see his workshop and he's boiling all of those shark jaws and everything. So it's insane. What incredible storytelling yet again.
What I love in particular that he says, you know who I am, but he doesn't say I'm one of you. And there is an outsiderness even to Quint that I think is going to be really important for us to track by the time we get to Act 3.
Right. Totally.
You're so right.
Are you curious about how much money in today's dollars both of these amounts were?
Oh, please.
Yes.
$3,000 in July of 1975 would today have the purchasing power of $17,793. So
Holy shit.
That was the prize for killing the shark. Quint asks for $10,000, which has the buying power today of $61,701.
That's so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, get yours, Quint. You know what, Quint? You should have asked for $12,500.
I agree.
Negotiate, my man.
I mean, you're risking your life out there.
Yeah.
And you clearly go to a special barber to get those chops looking the way that they look. So you gotta afford your lifestyle, my man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he even says, "Big fish, swallow you whole."
Oh my god!
Yeah, no, he does. It's it'll give you a little shake, and then down you go. God,
I loved him.
God, this
so
movie's
much.
great.
Uh-huh.
I honestly, as I was doing the notes, my notes for this, I was struggling because I kept wanting to be this scene rules. I love this movie. This one's great. This is great. I love this movie so much.
It's so good. I love this movie.
Well, there's absolute chaos at the marina as fishermen from the island and beyond try to launch their boats and go sharking. Brody meets Hooper, the shark expert he'd asked to come help, and takes him to the coroner's office to see what's left of Christine's body. Hooper is horrified and says in no uncertain terms that she was killed by a shark. Back at the marina, the swarm of fishermen caught a tiger shark. Everyone is celebrating. They caught the shark! Yay! It's all over! But Hooper isn't convinced. That night, Brody and Hooper break into the dock and autopsy the tiger shark themselves, confirming that this shark never killed anyone. They go hunting for the shark themselves and discover a wrecked boat. Hooper dives in and discovers a gigantic tooth, but drops it after being shocked by a dead body.
Oh, this man is just great at dropping things. But I want to start actually before the chaos in the marina, because there is this sequence, and we mentioned, or Tyler mentioned it at the top when we did our Scared and Prepared, where two men are essentially trying to catch the shark by throwing a roast into the water, and it's totally forgettable, except that it's a really good scare.
No, it broke my heart not being describing that, cutting that from the thing. It just isn't plot important. It shows up in one scene where the deputy is talking to Brody, but it just does not impact the plot, so I could not put it in. It's one of my favorite sequences in the film.
Truly, I remember seeing the there was a time where I didn't watch the movie for a while, and then I watched it again, and I was like, wait, is this a deleted scene? I don't remember this scene, because it is like honestly forgettable because it's not plot relevant, but it is spooky relevant.
Well, and I think it's technically relevant because it teaches us that when you see something floating and moving, that means shark. And that will be critical for us to remember in the third act. Because we're not always going to see a fin. We're not always going to see jaws. We're going to see barrels. And the pier that it gets pulled off by the shark, that helps to teach the audience to look for that. So in a little bit of a way, I think the scene acts as a tutorial for some of the climaxes later in the film.
Absolutely. And I think it also really demonstrates how powerful the fish is. Because Bruce is a big boy, and he is super strong, and it rips a pier apart. Like a dock just absolutely destroys it. And that is going to be critical for later, as Bruce also fucks up a lot of other shit.
Yeah. But let's talk about Hooper.
Yes.
Let's talk about Hooper.
One of my husbands, you mean?
One of my
Yes!
husbands. Oh, yes, my 3 dads. Hooper's introduction is probably my favorite thing in the film. Richard Dreyfuss in 1975, and we can talk about Richard Dreyfuss if we need to, but Richard Dreyfuss in 1975 is doing things to me that will be important for my development as an adolescent. And it's his introduction in particular, in which he's trying to like help some men try not to like overcrowd their boat or whatever it is. And he just asks them for directions, and they're like, walk into the ocean. And he just goes, haha, they're all going to die. And I was like, oh my God, you're perfect. You're perfect. You need nothing.
Yeah, and he's even rich. It's great.
Seeing this movie when I was young maybe like put something on my soul, because like that is both me and people that I love. So I think we will not focus on him for too much because he doesn't deserve it. But Richard Dreyfuss does suck now. If you want to find out why, look it up. But 50 years ago, he was amazing as Hooper. I could see shades of Spielberg in Hooper's character. They share a major physical resemblance. Like the glasses in particular, like I'm sure they just share the same frames. But also Hooper is as Dreyfuss is Jewish, he is the one Jewish man in an environment full of Gentiles, which again, if you know about Spielberg, you know that was part of his own lived life experience. And so I think that this is like kind of Spielberg's self-insert, kind of sorta. He's smart, he knows what the score is, but he's also funny and sarcastic. And like who wouldn't want to be Hooper? Like when we would, so I don't know, David or Marilee, if you guys did this, but like on the playground when I was a kid, we used to play Jaws.
That's so cute.
And so my friends and I, or my classmates and I, would go on like the jungle gym thing. Like I remember there's like this big red tunnel that you could climb through, and we would pretend that was the orca, and then I would always say that I'm Hooper. And then someone like the leader of our little group would always be Quint, and then someone would wind up being Brody, even though they didn't want to be Brody.
Yeah, short straw.
So all that being said, huge impact. Love Richard Dreyfuss in this movie. Hate him now.
Yeah. Can we talk about the autopsy scene before we talk about the marina stuff? Because I know that we have a lot to say about the marina, but the autopsy is one of the scenes that really like imprinted on my brain. The way that like Hooper pulls down the sheet and like immediately is like, can you get me some water? And like the way that scene is acted is so incredible. It is a masterclass in nothing is scarier, because the audience, like we all say show don't tell, yada yada yada. Sometimes telling, not showing, is the move, and that is here. We have to imagine what Hooper is seeing here, and that's always going to be scarier than actually seeing it.
Honestly, it's kind of genius to describe it that way, Marilee, because it is also showing at the same time, because so much of that effect is communicated through Dreyfuss's performance.
Yeah.
And like we've just been introduced to him on the marina being like kind of sarcastic and smart and young, right?
Yeah.
And so he's confident. And then we go here and that confidence is totally torn away because of the state of the body.
Absolutely. And like the only thing that we see is like he carefully tips up her arm and we see this gigantic bite out of it, and oh my God, it kills. The effects in this movie kills. This is so good, gang.
Love it. Yum yum yum. Well, then
right.
let's talk about the chaos on the docks because,
Yes.
again, my trauma, it's so strong. Here is where I look at a group of people who want to help but are ill-equipped to do so and are actually pushing us backwards in our efforts to do the right thing by over-asserting their authority to take action against a shared threat, which then convinces other leaders that the threat is actually taken care of. This is where I think that I was like, I need an adult because I'm having too many flashbacks to my life.
Oh, buddy.
This was hard. This was the scene where it started to be hard. The next beach scene was also really hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
movie good.
I think the zenith of it is when Hooper gets introduced to Vaughn, and Vaughn does not have the time of day for my man because they caught this fish. But as soon as Hooper starts saying like, well, I don't think that's the shark, it might be a different shark, then all of a sudden Vaughn is interested again and being like, no, don't tell people that this isn't the shark because we need to have caught the shark, and they caught the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the locals who are pissed off at Hooper for even suggesting that. They say that he's too young, he's a kid, he's a boy, all this other stuff, and it's just like, no, you don't know, you're too young, we're the experts here, we're caught the damn thing, so we know that this is the shark. And I'm sure again that was very resonant to you, David, with how people behaved. But I think like my favorite part of the scene is when Hooper is like taking notes, and then we're like listening in on a couple of the fishermen, and they're talking about the shark, and they say like, it's from a cove, it's a mako instead of like a mako shark.
Yeah.
And
then Hooper's got a pencil in his mouth and just goes, it's a tiger shark. And then the one fisherman turns around and goes, a what?
It is great. It's great because it displays how stupid they are. I mean, they truly don't know what they're doing. And even though they got a result, without knowing what your result means, you can't consider it to be victory or consider it to be actionable because it's just an incidental result.
It's like taking the horse medicine to treat COVID.
Well, I mean, I can actually use an example of something that was ultimately a good decision, but was made without community input or wasn't done as part of communal action, which is that we had places that were closing and like removing people from shared domiciles, like dormitories at colleges and universities, to send children home. That probably spread more COVID not than ultimately prevented, because we did need to eventually close and lock down. So it was the right move. But doing it without county health, doing it without state health, doing it without federal health caused us to have more problems because all of those systems were isolated and not interconnected. There was a Hooper. I guess it was Anthony Fauci in the end, but we weren't listening to Hooper. We were all taking our own actions, and some of them were probably the right choice, but because they were independent, they were not intentional.
Mm-hmm.
That's so smart.
Yeah. So before we start to get to the end of this sequence, I want to talk about the dinner scene.
God, it's so good.
At the Brody house. So after all of the chaos at the dock, we also have a wonderful performance from Mrs. Kittner's actress in the scene. It's quite memorable. But afterwards, Brody is at home. He's feeling grief and guilt because he trusts Hooper, even though he doesn't want to believe Hooper. Maybe the shark is still out there. And so he's really broken up and sad about it. And his little boy, who's maybe like a little bit older than a toddler, is there. And he and his father start making faces at each other. And it's all no dialogue. There's just a very soft twinkling from John Williams because that's what Williams is so good at. And it's a very natural, loving moment where even though Brody is kind of a grouch and he yells at people and he is a drinker because he's drunk most of the first two acts of the movie, he's still a loving father who cares about what's good and right at the end of the day. And that gives us so much more sympathy towards him and his plight, and it makes us root for him even further.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm so happy that Spielberg is the one who adapted this film, because the original Jaws novel, which I'm going off of the memories of when I read it when I was like 12 years old, it's a lot more cynical. Brody is much more of an asshole. Hooper is like such a different person. That's why this is like such a Spielberg insert, because Hooper's kind of like generic, handsome, tanned man who wears a Lacoste polo shirt and sleeps with Brody's wife.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. And then the Hooper in this is totally different. We have that feeling of earnestness and love that Spielberg is so great at communicating in his films. And fatherhood too, because fatherhood is a major fixture of his films as well. So I love that. And then of course, we have our dissection scene of the shark.
Oh, I did love the shark being gutted.
Yeah. I can do anything. I'm the chief of police. A cab, unfortunately, includes Martin Brody.
That is unfortunate, yeah.
I mean, I do. There is a story about authority that is within this. I think that it would be a totally different film to like jettison the third act and just have like the third act be about procedural of who makes decisions in a small town. But the chief of police in a small town like Amity would be responsible for health and safety of the people. They would usually do that in concert with the city council, but the city council governance is only bestowed upon someone because the governed allow it to be.
Right.
There's no God-given powers to any of this. So I do think the authority between Vaughn and Brody is very interesting, and we get enough of it that I'm satisfied. But I do think that there could be even more.
There could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really love the autopsy of that shark where he pulls out the license plate and he's like, "Oh God, I hope he didn't swallow a car." It's funny. It's all good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while my man Hooper, best boy ever, is just like kneeling in milk, like just the most putrid, disgusting liquid that has come out of this shark. That I just have to imagine someone was like, "Go buy some clotted cream from the grocery store, and put it in this prop." And it is very effective in telling me that we cut a shark open. And again, this is doing a great job of showing, not telling, not showing, telling, not showing. Like it is doing that thing again that we saw with the other autopsy, in that you're not showing me actually inside the shark, but you're not telling me what they see. You're only showing me sort of Dreyfus's reaction as Hooper, who is a man that we assume has done this before.
So it's very similar to the autopsy.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Chrissy. And then finally, like, part of what makes this movie so good is that we have to use our imagination for everything, except for the moments when we don't. And when they don't, holy shit, is it fucking impactful. So the scene where Hooper is investigating the broken boat out in the water, it's like midnight, it's dark as hell, murky as hell. Hooper goes, finds this boat, finds a giant fucking shark tooth the size of his hand, and then out pops a dead body.
Yeah, I didn't like this. This was scary. And we had some, like, strong strings that came on when the head appeared. Good job.
John Williams.
Well done. Excellently done, because this was very scary, and I had forgotten about it.
So, be me in 2008, right? Okay. I'm taking summer PE. It's terrible. It's hot out. It's like an 8-hour day. It sucks. But our coach is chill, and it's just like, okay, it's the hottest part of the day. It's 3 p.m., let's go inside. We'll watch a movie. We're going to watch Jaws. Almost no one, aside from me and like 2 other people, had seen Jaws before.
In Florida?
In fucking Florida. So imagine the fear on their faces when this fucking head pops out, where it's so dark in the room, it's storming outside, it's really kind of cozy and cool, and then all of a sudden, bam, Ben Gardner's head pops out. I swear to God, it was like a wave pushing tables back. Like all of these desks and all the students just flowed backwards in fear in one smooth motion. Your
teacher said, "Oh, it's too hot to run a mile, but I can get their heart rate up. Here we go."
Yeah, there we go. Coach Herding, you suck, actually, and come on the pod.
Coach Herding, come on the pod. Answer for your crime.
Yeah, answer for your crimes, because he cheated on his wife and stole her from school. Anyway, the next morning, Hooper and Brody try to convince Vaughn of the continued danger, but the beaches will remain open on the 4th of July. When the day arrives, the beaches are packed. A couple of kids play a prank, pretending to be the shark, and distracting everyone long enough for the real shark to swim into the pond and eat another person. At the hospital, Brody forces Vaughn to give him the money to hire Quint. Quint doesn't like Hooper and makes that very clear, but Brody insists that he come along. Eventually, Brody says a touching goodbye to his wife, and then the orca sails out.
So I want to start here talking about the Vaughn of it all, because I think this is a great Vaughn sequence. And there's this concept in decisional authority. That's sort of this forced indecision that I can't take action unless you prove that I should take action. And it is so emblematic when he's like, oh, you found a big tooth. Do you have the tooth? And they're like, oh, we don't have the tooth. Because, again, like, Hooper can't hold on to anything. He's all Butterfingers, gang. And it's just incredible that he allows the not having the tooth. He's like, well, no tooth, no truth, and just like walks away. But then we get to something that he does have evidence of, which is the defacement of the sign. And he goes, I need every man on figuring out who painted this sign, and they must be brought to justice. And it is so incredible for me how Vaughn is portrayed here as wanting to not only defend the town's honor, but take away a message that is for public safety and instead force back to norm. And so this was, again, this is where Vaughn was the most pandemic relation for me. My main trauma is later on the beach.
Yeah, that sign also infamous. So if you haven't seen the film, first of all, stop what you're doing and go watch. But there is a big welcome sign to Amity Island that we saw at the start of the movie, featured a very pretty bather, and now it has been vandalized to have her say, "Help, shark." But that was actually up at the Amity Island section of Universal Studios before it was closed.
Wow.
To make room for more Harry Potter bullshit.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I never saw it, unfortunately.
It was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah. Great scene. Love that. I'm right there with you, David. It just feels like shades of 2020 all over this thing during that sequence. And it's just the people who have a stake in making sure that business continues to operate and remain operational are the ones who are going to ignore all the warning signs. And the outsiders, again, are the ones who are told, no, you're wrong. I'm not going to listen to you. And that's a bummer.
But I think what's interesting is we're now getting to the beach before the prank. The beach is packed. The no one's in the water because they're all worried about the shark. But to think that being in the water means like to set all of your hopes on being in the water ignores the fact that there are plenty of other things about Amity and the beach itself that are important and valuable to its economy. But because there is a way that we have done business and we have oh, you can only be in my motel if you go swimming in the water, is such a stupid thing to say out loud, because it's just frankly not true. And yet that is the way that these people operate, and it's the way that we operate sometimes when we haven't really spent some time thinking about how there is a new and changed normal. And I think for queer people, we struggle because that normal was set by a heteronormative society. And so there's so much capital T trauma about all of this part of what we're in solidly the second act here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the role of the Cassandra, like the prophet that no one believes but is telling the truth, is really resonant in queer stories.
Yeah.
Because so often we end up being kind of like the warning signs of a greater problem coming. So like that happened with monkeypox. But of course it also happened with the HIV/AIDS crisis that, it was way before or way after this movie, but still the ideas are there. The outsiders are the ones who are trying to sound the clarion call that there is a problem and it needs to be dealt with, and everyone wants to close their eyes. And so I think, David, it's actually kind of like an interesting idea to suggest like no one on Amity is invested with like trying to advertise the other parts of Amity. It's the beach that's the main draw. And I mean, as someone who grew up in a beach town, yeah, that makes sense. That we in particular dealt with that sort of bullshit specifically during the summer of 2020 with DeSantis saying like there's, go out to the beaches, go out to the parks, just stay far away from each other. And well, that is, probably would have been okay if you had gone somewhere and then you were always able to maintain social distancing.
Right.
It's not realistic. Just as it's not realistic to expect people to go somewhere that is famous for its beaches and then not go in the water. So it's all this horrible, like self-fulfilling prophecy of how capitalism in this sort of context is only interested in capitalism.
It's a beast that never stops eating. I'm telling you.
Yeah. To the point that I love Vaughn going around and being like, why aren't you getting in the water? Because it's not enough for them to be there with their money, which is all you wanted, was their fucking money. But he has to get them back to baseline, which is people in the water.
Yeah, he goes to I think he's a city council person, but he's clearly somebody that Vaughn has like a close relationship with, and he makes him bring like his wife and like 3 kids, and they all go into the water together. Immediately after that, like somebody is in the water, everybody else like gets up and goes, be like, oh okay, yeah, no, like other people are in the water, it's gonna be safe. But it's just insane that this family goes and does it. Just because they were asked.
Yes, but that's how it works. Like, you find someone that you can make a puppet that you can then force normalcy on everyone else. This is compulsory heterosexual marriage. This is going out and eating at a Chili's because like I am only fulfilled if I eat at a fucking Chili's. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, man does not live to eat at Chili's. That's not what we're built for. And so that's where a lot of this was like coming back to me, especially during these sequences.
Okay, Absolutely. But the triple dipper though.
Well, listen.
God.
I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I did, of course, research the 1972 electromechanical arcade game developed by Sega in 1972, Killer Shark. That is a real electromechanical game, which means that there are lights and physical items that flash to create an image, but it is not a screen the way that we think about video games today.
Wow.
That can... Hey, if you have one of those things, come. Please email us at fearcodedpod@gmail.com. I'd love to play it.
Yeah,
you can put it in the Glitterjaw offices.
Yeah, don't look up the value of it. Just give it to us for $15.
Yeah.
Listen, you can have it back. I just want to play it.
Hey, $15 is our whole Fear Coded budget for the year,
Truly.
So let's not go crazy.
Truly.
Listen, we have to feed a lot of bats on that.
Yeah, true. So, Marilee, the beach is also kind of like so wonderfully built because we have so much going on there. We have our tourist crowds, but there is also a news reporter that's there as well. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so that's the author of the book who's doing a cameo as the news reporter on the beach. And just so if you feel like having a giggle, that man is so fucking tall. Feel free to look at some of the red carpet pictures basically and see how much taller he is than everybody else around him. It's insane.
Yeah, Peter Benchley was a news reporter before he was an author. And so this was a very natural role for him to take on. But I really wanted to point this scene out before we kind of start to wrap up here, because the role of media is so highly important, and Vaughn is very aware of that. So for him to be the one that is going on to the television and he's telling everyone that, like, we dealt with the problem, a large creature
he not only says
he doesn't say shark.
No, he says that there were some bathers who were supposedly injured. He never even says, yeah, there was a shark attack. It's insane. It's insane the way that he talks.
Yep, the beaches are open. Everyone is having a wonderful time. Amity, as you know, means friendship. And it's like, this was like another big meme that was going around whenever Trump would do his 5:00 p.m. press conferences back in the spring of 2020, where it was just like, this is just like Vaughn talking to the news reporter. Like, it's just spreading bullshit just because that's what he wants people to think. And it's awful. It's intended to only help the Capitol and not the people. And then, of course, we have everything that happens with the shark attack scene. Wonderfully performed. It's such a incredible piece of like high tension, and it's iconic.
Yeah, and this is our first real look at Bruce, which I loved. I loved his sort of occluded on his side, where we get that terrifying eye, and then my man is dead. He's DED, like he's gone.
Yeah. It was the Boy Scout
we never
leader.
Get a name. No, we never get a name for him. He's just like a guy who rows over and is trying to help out this boat full of young kids, and he's like trying to give them advice, and then he's just blooped and gone.
One of those kids being Brody's older son, too. So there is also a personal stake for our hero.
Yeah.
And Michael, the boy, is the one who gets close to it, sees the damn thing, and then has to go to the hospital for trauma. Which is where we wrap up this scene. I think my favorite scene with Vaughn is this final scene we have with Vaughn, because we don't see Vaughn after this, where Vaughn is clearly shooken up, and Brody is telling him, like, you're the mayor of Shark City, you got to do something about this. It looks like you want the shark to eat people. And then
these people think you want the beaches open.
Yeah. And then Vaughn breaks down and says, my kids were on that beach too.
Yep.
And then he signs the deal, and Quint will be getting his money, and they'll go hunting the shark.
And it shouldn't take a personal stake to have made that decision, but I like that it's essentially Vaughn's last line. There's a little bit of like background that you end up hearing, which I hate makes it not his last line. His last line is like negotiating the terms, which kind of sucks. But the last line of my kids were on that beach too is so impactful because this is the end of Vaughn's story. And you're sort of meant to interpret that Vaughn has changed and that Act 3 had the beaches closed while the men were hunting the shark.
Mm-hmm.
What a nice thing. Don't think about Jaws 2.
Okay, well, I wasn't going to until you forced me to on this podcast.
It's not a real thing.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
I think now is as good a time as any to talk about Quint, Hooper, and Brody.
Yes.
I love these three. I love that they have instant... I wrote camaraderie in my notes, but I think what I'm actually talking about is chemistry, because they're not
Yes.
buddies. In fact, they're all sort of anti-buddies. They're outsiders to the town. They're outsiders to each other. They're from 3 different worlds, and yet they have convened aboard the Orca in order to get a task done, and they will develop a camaraderie because the chemistry is so strong between the 3 of them.
I was going to say, I love that we have such different characters together that only have like this one connecting line, like you said, David. And I love that it's also kind of like we get our man versus conflicts with each character, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had man versus man because there is tension between all of them. There's man versus technology between Hooper and then also Quint, because Hooper is the very technological, fancy one, and then Quint is like, I've got my fishing line and a harpoon.
He's got it.
Yeah.
And then there's Brody is man versus nature because not only is he dealing with the shark, he also is afraid of the water. Yep. And so he's terrified of being on the boat on the water. And so it's instantly tantalizing to watch because there's so much opportunity for conflict, and we get that almost immediately. And like Quint is not taking Hooper seriously. Quint is kind of a creepy dude, but he's also the only one that you know can be relied on, and he's our Ahab. He's our Captain Ahab in this Moby Dick tale.
Absolutely.
He's just a little less crazy, but the bar was very, very,
only
very
slightly
high for Ahab. Like, very, very high.
Yeah.
I do think that outside of Quint being Ahab, the rest of the because Moby Dick was cited as like this is so influenced by Moby Dick. It's really not there outside of Quint being a little Ahab-y. Like he wants to get the shark and he's hunting something on the ocean, which like, okay, I guess that's Moby Dick like, but he's not obsessed with Bruce the shark. Bruce the shark himself just represents another shark. There are other traumas that my man Quint is going through. He needs some therapy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not this shark. I guess that's where I kept reading things about like, oh, it's so Moby Dick. And I was like, have you all read Moby Dick? Like the shark,
the book, Benchley's original novel is way more Moby Dick.
Oh,
and the parallels between Quint and Ahab are a lot clearer there. But they removed a lot of that in this, I think.
Yet another improvement.
Truly and honestly, because I don't need another man hunting his father in the open ocean. Get over it. Drink more. God, whatever. Make your homemade booze.
Men will hunt sharks instead of going to therapy. It's wild.
But can we talk about the orca? I know we're hot off the heels of another boat that I loved, but I love this boat so much. Gang, should I live on a boat? I love boats.
You do live. You do live next to the ocean.
The sea.
Yeah.
But yes.
I'd go for it. I think that living on a boat is actually way cooler and more accessible than people think, and you should live your best life.
You should go live on that boat.
Yeah,
though.
I mean,
no,
both
not this
boats
one.
we've seen are pretty terrifying, but they're great set pieces. I love this boat. I love the orca. I love that it's named the orca, a predator of a great white shark. The only thing that would take a great white down in the ecology of the ocean is an orca shark. It is why it is called a killer whale.
Also, a couple of years from now, speaking of movies that we're trying to copy Jaws, the movie Orca.
Yeah.
which is basically Jaws, but it's a killer whale.
I thought you were going to bring up the fact that orcas are like sabotaging rich billionaires' yachts across the world.
Oh, well, that didn't happen. Yeah, that too. I love that.
Yeah.
I really thought that's where you were going. I was like, yes,
Perfect.
Tyler. Yes, bring down the millionaires.
Well, we should. And I think all orcas should do that.
We've talked so much about how this movie has such a strong anti-capitalist message, and not once have we talked about Poseidon's frequent billionaire sacrifices of rich people to the ocean.
Now's the time. Now's the time.
We
got the orca. We got the killer whale. The orca having been my favorite animal growing up.
Good choice.
Tyler lore.
Was it a Free Willy thing, or was it just because it's pretty?
I think it was a Free Willy thing.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, aboard the Orca, tensions between Hooper, Quint, and Brody are high. But after a few false starts, Brody spots the shark and they're off. Quint's plan involves shooting the shark with floating barrels to follow it and prevent it from diving deeper under the water. Hooper attaches a light to the barrel before it goes out, but it's no use. The shark dives underwater despite being attached to the barrel. That night, Quint and Hooper compare scars before Quint talks about his past on the USS Indianapolis, which sank and lost a majority of its crew to shark attacks. Just then, the shark attacks the boat and tries to sink it. The next morning, the men are still trying to fix the damage done to the boat and the engine when the shark comes back. They put 2 more barrels onto it and try to pull the shark to shore, but it's too strong and the engine is too damaged, so it just drags the ship further out to sea.
This movie rules.
I really love the intimacy that starts to develop in this. Obviously, the drinking scene is like the apex, but even as we're getting closer, you can see Quint take on this like mentorship role with Brody. He teaches him how to tie a knot, which is like a very father-son, mentor-mentee thing. And like Brody is so proud of himself when he ties a knot that it's hard not to look at him a little bit like we were looking at him and his child earlier, which is what makes that dinner scene more impactful now.
Absolutely. I think, and then we see like the kind of sassiness that Brody has a little bit, and that he's like, he does think of himself as being like a powerful person because as a police officer and sheriff, he is a role of power in the ideological system that is existing on Amity, but Quint is the boss here. And so Brody says, like, let Hooper take a turn when Quint asks him to go chum the water. And Quint just says very, like, authoritatively, Hooper drives the boat. And then it's just this great shot that Spielberg does of looking up at Quint, and the sun is behind him, so he's just this ominous silhouetted figure up above. Very Ahab-like, though. I will say that is very Ahab-like.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
God, it's all so good. In our very first, like, episode, our introduction, I posit that this movie was gay because both Quint and Hooper are trying to date Brody the sheriff, and like that's like kind of what their tension is. But the more I think about it, the more I love what David said last time about how each, like, the part of what makes this trio of guys so compelling is the fact that they both have like commonalities with each other, making the third person the outsider. Because like both Brody and Quint have a lot of commonalities with like the ocean and like knowing stuff about sharks and stuff, and so like Brody is made to be the outsider a lot of the time between the two of them, in a way that when Hooper and Quint are locking heads is not the case. You know what I mean? I don't know if any of that sense I kind of rambled.
No, but Marilee, actually, I love that idea so much, and I want to take it like a step further. I kind of think that the orca and being on the water creates a sort of liminal space where there is no more dominant ideology of like, we're the outsiders.
Right.
The world to them is the orca. The galaxy is the ocean around them. And so there are no more rules. They don't have to behave in a certain way that society has dictated. Instead, the universe is their boat. And because of that, they can start to blend together the familiarity, the dynamics that they have. They don't have to be themselves that they were on land, because in this space they could be new people. And I think we begin to see that, and it climaxes with the drinking scene at night.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually wonderful, and I think that makes it extra queer.
Yeah.
I think that the orca is a queer environment. I think once we leave land behind, we move into a new world.
This
and
Gayville,
new rules apply.
Gayville City. Population, 3 dudes and a shark. Okay, before we get to the drinking scene, because it is critical, I'm sorry, giant shark head appears while my man isn't looking? This is fucking terrifying and incredible. I think that we have lauded this film many, many times for not showing us the shark, except like now I'm being shown the shark and I'm also afraid of the shark.
Yeah.
Like it's really scary.
There's scenes where the shark doesn't look good. This is not one of those scenes.
No. God, it's the thing, when we first see the shark for like the first time, it's almost funny how sudden and unexpected the shark just popping up right there is. And because like we've kind of been trained by John Williams to know when the shark is coming or anything. And so it's just a quiet moment. He flings the thing and then suddenly shark, and then the score kicks in. It's just excellently done.
That is actually genius, and I had never thought about that.
Yes, it's playing with your expectations. And then we get into the sort of like fun adventure comedy score where they're like navigating around the orca to like get ready to shoot the harpoon, and then there's like this deep little undertone that follows through it, and that's where we get the dunna dunna dunna. And throughout it all, we are doing some bonkers things shooting these people as they move about the ship, and shooting their shoes as they walk past the bridge to the front, to the bow of the ship, and seeing one of their sneakers, like fucking Converse on this boat, slip a little bit. Even though I was enjoying some like tiddly dinks music in the background to tell me like everything's okay right now, I had this huge amount of anxiety because I thought one of these guys was going to fall into the water with just a giant shark.
Yeah. I agree. It's so good.
It's so
I love
good.
that. That's such a good call out though, David, because it is scary.
It's so scary.
That part is scary, but
So
this whole
scary.
sequence of events, like once they're hunting the shark, oh mama, like you're right, totally. That John Williams' score, it changes to the tiddly dinks, and now it's like I feel like I'm in like a pirate movie.
Yes,
you know, like they're hunting, they've caught their prey, and now like all of the crew is going to their places and manning the catapults and so on and so forth. Like it feels so good, and that is what makes this movie partially so amazing, is that Spielberg is able to take a very scary movie and insert kind of like a fun, the adventure-y kind of part of this all into it, and it feels perfect. It feels totally natural, and I don't think many horror movies are capable of that.
Yeah.
And I think this is also part of what makes the movie feel so summery and like the summer blockbuster that it became.
Yes.
Because summertime is about like fun at the movies. We are having a good time. It's hot out. I've come inside. I want to be transported somewhere else. And Spielberg knows what it means to transport an audience to the magic of film. And he totally nails it here. So I love this. I'm really happy that you brought that up, David, because I feel really strongly about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we do get, you know, we sort of resolve the first fight sequence, and then we're down in the hold, and this is the drinking and touching scene.
Yeah.
What a great way to put it. Thank you. Yep. This movie's gay, gang.
Yeah, this is the gayest part of the movie.
Well, and I think that there's a unique type of intimacy, and I don't know that this is universal for everyone, but I know in every intimate partnership that I have had that's made it to a point, there just becomes a time when you talk about weird things on your body. And it's because you would only share that space with someone when your body is exposed. I'm not showing my scars to people when I like meet them on the street. It is a natural type of intimacy and conversation. And it isn't just for me it is a little bit because I do love gnarly scars, but it's not just like, look at this gnarly scar. It's tell me the story about how you got this. I don't just want to see where you got 7 stitches on the top of your head. I want to hear about what cleft your head in two that created the need to get those stitches and to now have that scar. It's such shorthand intimacy that is delivered in this scene between Quint and Hooper. And at one point in time, there's this moment, oh God, blink and you miss it, that Brody like lifts up his shirt to like show them, and then he chickens out. And I was like, oh, baby gay, I see you. I know you wanted to join in this threesome, but you're just not ready yet.
Oh my God, what an incredible call out.
Yeah, it's intimate. It's intimate as hell. And I think like, thankfully, Brody does feel the connection between the three of them as they start to sing their "Show Me
Oh,
the Way
yeah.
to Go Home"
Yeah.
song. But like the exchanging of the physicality of the body is so fascinating. The scars, some of them are about sharks, some of them are about past relationships. They're all clearly drunk. Robert Shaw is drunk in real life. It's all like this wonderful moment where, like, okay, they have finally fallen under the spell of the sea.
Yes.
Like, you know, we are in a place where the rules don't apply, and now we get to embrace that. So we come from different places, but we are united by this commonality. And I think that's what, you know, a queer found family is like we all come from different places, but together we have found some communion. And
Absolutely.
that's absolutely what happens here. And then the glue of the scene is Quint's Indianapolis speech.
Yeah. The acting in this movie is universally terrific, but this Indianapolis scene is phenomenal. It's like the linchpin of the film in a lot of ways, and it's just delivered so excellently and shot so beautifully, and it's just movie good, gang.
And it's really crazy because, again, when you do the research on the making of this movie, you find out how hellish it was. And it wasn't just because of Bruce. It was also because, unfortunately, Robert Shaw was an alcoholic who had major substance abuse problems during the filming of this movie, because this was pretty late in his career. And he would show up drunk on set and perform. And he was shit-faced during the scene. They had to do multiple takes, and eventually I believe this was the last one, and Robert Shaw was so fucking wasted, but he nailed it.
Yeah. Well,
and
his alcoholism came from his trauma, like as does Quint's. Like, this is, I don't think anyone should show up to work intoxicated. I think it's very dangerous for people that you work with. But this, like, that is why it ended up being so ripe and raw, and probably why Shaw was picked is because he carries a lot of that very personally. And to get to that point as an actor, you almost need a little bit of that in your rearview mirror. We just hope usually that somebody has dealt with it in healthy coping ways, not just traumatic drinking.
Yeah.
But the scene itself, like the story of the Indianapolis, is fascinating. You know, recent history does not totally agree with Quint's interpretation of what happened. Or like recent studies of what happened don't agree. Mm-hmm. But either way, my God, like, incredible performance, incredible delivery. And we learn so much of Quint's trauma is due to his experience on the Indianapolis when it sank. It ate, sharks came and ate almost his entire crew. He found a friend of his that he knew personally. Like, he dropped like a little bit of lore on this guy, so we even have like a little bit of a connection. And then Quint describes finding him bobbing up and down because his torso had been bitten in half.
So powerful.
And that'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
And he'll never put on a life vest again. And there's a shot a little bit later where we see Quint. He kind of goes like he's going to grab one for himself, and he chooses not to.
Yep.
So I think there's also a little bit of Ahabiness in that as well. This idea that, like, the thing that I am hunting is going to be my last hunt, and once I'm done with this, then I'm done.
Yeah. But then, to go back to my, like, thesis that the shark is gay, we have this, like, huge intimacy between the men. They are more intimate than we've ever seen them. The story of the USS Indianapolis is they are so intimate together. And then they break into this body song, which is a refrain of either Spanish Ladies, the English version, Yankee Whalermen, or whatever the fuck version this is, because they are singing lyrics that I could not identify from any of the other variants of the song. But the main lines about Spanish Ladies tells me that it's the Spanish Ladies chant. It's fine. But our boy the shark was probably listening in on this whole trauma and was like, yeah, queers, get it. And then they start singing about women. He's like, fuck your women. And then he starts attacking the boat. He's like, be gay or die. Chomp chomp, motherfucker.
I love that.
That's how our shark
and
works.
You're such a delight.
I was going to say, David, you are totally erasing bisexuals here, because I think the shark is probably like, be bisexual,
yeah,
and he's just so excited to have bisexual representation in 1975 that he's just ramming the boat.
He was like, let me in, I have scars too.
Yes, that's it. I love
you
that.
You gave me
Quint
one
shot
of
me today.
You gave me one of these. Touch it.
God, incredible. Right before the shark starts, you know, like before they notice the shark attack, Hooper starts singing a different song, which is, I think, where the, like, there are two songs here, and that's maybe why the lyrics get confused. But he starts singing, "Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed." And if you have been with me out at an event or something that's gone on too long, you know that I start singing to myself this exact song. It is just in my brain. When I have been out too long, I want to go home because I'm tired and I want to go to bed. And this is it. This is the song that lives in my brain.
You know what, Marilee? You've helped me uncover the problem, which is that is the tune to the Yankee Whalermen. I just believe that Hooper has made up his own lyrics, which is that he wants to go home and go to bed. And that is why I did not find it in a list of sea shanties that I was desperately trying to look for where this line, "I want to go to bed," appears. And it is in no sea shanty.
Hooper just came up with it because he's
tired and wants to go to bed.
He's that girl. He's that girl. Yeah. One last thing before we wrap up, and I promised my mother I would talk about it. So the Indianapolis sank on June 29th, 1945. Alice Kittner was eaten on June 29th, 1975.
Ooh.
And so there's a little bit of a connection there.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
I love that. You know, they talk about early in the film, you know, Brody is talking with his wife and he's like, you know, we don't even know how old sharks get. They could be thousands of years old, which I don't think is, you know, a thing that we think about now, but it's very funny if the movie is trying to imply with those connections that this shark is one of the sharks from the Indianapolis.
I don't know, but I do have a fun fact about shark ages, and then I'm sorry, we'll move on. But the Greenland shark is the oldest shark that's known to man and has lived for like 500 years and could probably live for even longer. We just don't know enough about it.
Well,
that's rad as hell.
Humanity will see to making sure the oceans are unlivable before its natural death.
Yay!
Yay!
Okay, I do want to talk a little bit about the fight sequence, mostly because of two important moments. First, at one point in time, Richard Dreyfuss leans over in these jeans, which are painted onto him, and it is butt for days, and like, get it, Sharky. But they are still like harpooning my guy, and there's a moment in which a barrel ends up hitting Brody, and I do think it's a keen thing to remind everyone that the tools of oppression will harm everyone, and if you're trying to harm a queer person by banning books or whatever the fuck nonsense you're pushing through, you too will get harmed by it. So if you watch this film and you say, yes, shark equals gay, but Brody is straight people and we're going to fix the problem, you're going to get hit over the head by a barrel too, motherfuckers.
So
I
true.
love and treasure you. That's
so
fantastic.
Real.
Yeah. So there were a lot of problems with the technical aspects of this film. We've kind of mentioned that a few times. In some of the scenes in this and like the next sequence, the boat is filled with water that was not scripted to be there because it was sinking for real.
Isn't that fun? Love that about boats. Although, to be fair, if you've ever been on a boat before, there's just random water.
There's just always water. Like, you just sort of have to accept that, like, water is pernicious.
Yeah, for sure.
It will find its way everywhere and anywhere. Also, actually, since we brought up that, like, this scene, like, Brody gets hit with a barrel, kind of a neat foil to the earlier scene from the day before, where everything's, like, fun and adventure-y, and now it's kind of the exact same scenario, but now everything's fucky-wucky, and everyone's yelling at each other, and Brody's getting hit, Hooper's getting hurt because of the rope being too tight. There's a lot going on. It's just pure chaos, and we are upping the stakes because we are nearing the end of the movie.
The climax.
Yes.
Yeah. So stranded without any way to contact help, thank you so much for destroying the radio, Quint, and out of any other ideas, they try one of Hooper's plans. He will enter the shark cage and try to kill it with poison by stabbing it in the mouth. Unfortunately, Hooper's little butterfingers drops the spear before he can try. As the shark devours the cage, he escapes and swims away to hide on the bottom of the ocean floor. On the boat, Brody and Quint try desperately to raise the cage and rescue Hooper, but when they finally get it to the surface, all they see is the destroyed cage. The shark, tired of messing around, simply jumps onto the deck and eats Quint. Brody shoves an oxygen tank in the shark's mouth and then shoots it in cinema's most famous almost expletive, and the tank explodes, killing the shark. Brody and Hooper reunite, and the movie ends with the two of them trying to make it back to shore on their own.
I find the sequence with the shark cage, to be so evocative and effective because obviously the design of the creature is great, but it is the sound design in particular for this sequence that is so effective. It is remarkably quiet until there is significant action coming from the shark.
Absolutely. It's so good. Hooper was supposed to die originally, but they did a lot of B-roll footage in South Africa with like actual real sharks, and like they got they were filming and they got footage of a shark trapped between a shark cage and a boat, and the footage was so good they changed the script so that there could be a moment with the shark and an empty shark cage, and that's why he survives the film.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that it is very impressive footage.
It's so good.
Yeah, Hooper dies in the book too, and it's like pretty brutal and fucked up. But yeah, no, I actually thought there's so many also stories around this movie and the choices they made because it's so famous. And I had heard it was because like test audiences didn't like that Hooper died, and so they added that scene like last minute of him swimming behind some rocks to hide. So that's interesting too. I like your idea more because
I have the 25th anniversary DVD, and they talk about that in one of the special features.
Fuck yeah, I love that is objective fact now. That's way better.
They show the footage of stuff from the B-roll. It's really great. Speaking of fucked up deaths, Quince is so good.
I love Quint's death. I think that it is it's very horrifying. I think that when people do decry that they've seen too much of the shark, they cite this sequence. But to me, it's perfect. I think that it is exceptionally horrifying. I think Quint being devoured by the shark is effective. It works for me. The use of blood is very effective. The look of pain on his face tells me the story. The music is doing its job. This was horrifying, and I loved it. I simply loved this whole sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I think in particular, it is the unfeeling eye of the model of the shark that is so powerful, especially when we get it coming into the bridge later. Just very, very, very effective, because this is not a creature that holds malice. We are ascribing malice to it. It is just a shark.
He's hungry.
And although that is biologically impossible because sharks have a little protective membrane that goes over their eyes whenever they attack, it is cool as fuck. The black eyes, like a doll's eyes, are important for this movie because that is something specifically that Quint calls out as part of what makes the shark so terrifying.
Yeah.
And he's right. It's a scary shark.
He's absolutely right, and it kills him. So actually, that's a wrap on Quint, but in the novel we get more, and this was the original plan too, but because of the technological problems, it didn't happen. But Quint's death was actually supposed to mirror Ahab's, in that Quint would have tried to harpoon the shark, he would have gotten caught, and then Brody would have seen Quint's dead body wrapped to the side of the shark as Brody's trying to kill it.
Wow. Okay.
And that would have been cool looking, but I think this is better. This is just better. It's more grounded, but it also allows us to have more time with Shaw acting like he's being devoured, and it's scary as fuck, especially like when the blood spurts out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I loved it. Oh, blood is so well used in this movie across the board.
Oh my god, just every instance of blood kills. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I am very sad when the shark dies, though.
Yeah.
He could have just swum away. He could have just I learned my lesson. See you later.
Well, Hooper did say that the shark was behaving according to a now defunct theory called territoriality, which meant that we were in its territory and it was trying to defend it. So in that sense, yes, I am also sad that the shark dies because it was just an animal. However, it was still eating people.
Yeah.
We probably shouldn't eat children and young women.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Listen, here's the thing. If you watch, as the shark's carcass, sinks to the bottom of the ocean, there is an incredible and so silly and truly one of my favorite music cues in the whole film, where if you pay, the shark roars as it, goes down, and it's so silly, and I love it so much. It makes me happy every time I hear it.
Spielberg has talked about that too, where he even said, like, I know this is biologically impossible, but I wanted to include it. I think it's the slowed down noise of a train from the Great Train Robbery crashing.
Wow. Fun.
I think. I do not quote me on that.
I thought it was a truck or something.
It's like Hollywood lore, but it's also the same sound that played at the end of Spielberg's first movie, which was a made-for-TV movie called Duel, which is very similar to Jaws, in that a semi-truck is chasing after just some dude on the road, but we never see the driver of the semi-truck. So it's, again, that mystery and our imagination is much scarier than anything else. But when that truck crashes at the end, it plays that same noise, but not slowed down.
Huh.
So, and then the Great Train Robbery, again, I think that's what it was. I might have it wrong. But it was a very significant movie in Spielberg's development, and there's a lot of homages to it in his films.
That is,
I love that.
It's fascinating. I was just far too sad to be paying attention to sound design of the shark death.
Yeah, David, what's this other note after you said I am sad when the shark dies?
It should have been Brody. You know what? It should have been Brody. Brody, it should have been you. And then the shark could swim away with Hooper, and they form a brand new society of cute gay shark men.
I think sharks are gay. I know dolphins are commonly ascribed to being gay because they are, but I think dolphins are also kind of evil. We don't assign malevolence to animals, but I think dolphins are evil.
Dolphins know right from wrong, and they choose evil.
Yeah, they do. They really do. They choose the bad things.
But my shark was perfect. I'm sorry that he had to blow it up. I loved shooting the oxygen tank. I loved
Smile, you son of a
bitch. I will say,
iconic.
It is iconic, but now that I have done this, and now that I'm friends with Gavin, shout out Gavin, our Glitterjaw co-host, I am a lot more keen to look at editing and when there are fractions of a second off, and there are more than fractions of a second off of this cut to the explosion that should have just been a little tighter to get son of a bitch to work, because it's eat lead, you son of a ... explosion. It's just it's a little too long, unfortunately.
Okay. I'm having a Berenstein Bears moment, okay? Because when I was little, I remember there being more to the scene of Quint dying and Brody saying son of a bitch. And nowadays when I watch it, there's a weird cut between Quint shooting the blood out of his mouth and then he's dead and pulled into the water. And then that weird shot of Brody just saying, smile, you son of a ... explosion.
Yeah.
And I think it happened after 9/11.
Okay.
Because I remember Spielberg went back and changed ET so that the FBI agents are holding radios instead of shotguns.
That's right. I do remember that. That is real. I remember that.
And I can't remember if he did the same thing to Jaws with those scenes.
Steven Spielberg, come on the podcast. Defend yourself and your decisions.
Steven Spielberg, come on the podcast and defend yourself. Also, I will cry and tell you how much you mean to me.
Yes, both things can be true.
Yes.
You mean very little to me, Steven Spielberg. Come and impress me. Try your best.
Impress this man, Mr. Spielberg, with your Oscars.
Yeah. Close Encounters of the Boring Kind. No, just kidding. It was a great film.
That's a fucked movie. That's a pretty fucked up movie. Also Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, also Richard Dreyfuss.
We should watch that. That's kind of a scary movie. We can make it work. Anyway.
Aliens are scary.
I feel like our world of queerness is broken by the end.
Yeah. It is.
And unfortunately, we must return to the land of the ideology. If the shark is representation of queerness and the secrets that we keep and how they will destroy us in the end or whatever, we can assign a lot of meanings to the shark. Lord knows we all have in history. We must return to reality.
In the end, it's business as usual. Next year, 4th of July will be Amity, business as usual. Heterosexuals win. Boo.
Mm-hmm. And Quint is dead.
Quint is dead.
Quint is dead. I don't even think Hooper's in the second one.
Well, that's okay.
I think Richard Dreyfuss said, fuck that, I'm not coming back.
Yeah, I don't think anybody, I know that Brody would not have been in the sequel if he was not contractually obligated to do so.
Yeah, Roy Schneider. So any other final thoughts for the episode? How do we feel about Jaws in terms of horror or queerness after our conversation?
Movie good. I again want to say, like, one of the scariest things we've watched, and I think that to be 50 years old and don that mantle is impressive, and I think it's part of why Jaws gets remembered. I love that the scares are early. I love that there are fake outs. I think this is a very well-made horror film.
Absolutely.
How do we feel about the queerness of the movie, though? I mean, I think it's there.
Yeah.
I absolutely think it's there. I think we have found our little window into a world where queerness is allowed, healthy masculinity is allowed, the idea that you can have you can like share things with men should be allowed to share things with men. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I think men should be open and should be okay with the idea that, like, bro, if you want to give your bro a little peck on the cheek, it's fine. Like, it's cool. You can do that and still be straight. Like, we should just allow for more intimacy because we could see how healing that is. Because I think that sequence does display, like, the rot in Quint's soul from the trauma, but I think it also lays bare his vulnerability and explains why he is that way he is. So yeah, I think this movie definitely has queerness. I think it's okay to watch this during Pride Month if you really want to, especially if you're friends with, you're all gay friends with fishermen and whatnot. So also sharks are gay.
Sharks are gay. Sharks are gay. Also, if you're paying attention during one of the boating scenes, there is a shooting star. That was not added in post. That was a real actual shooting star that flew through the sky. And Steven Spielberg liked that so much, he digitally adds shooting stars to his later films. So that's a fun little Spielbergism. Yeah. Cute. So thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now, listeners, if you want our help to deal with the students of the karate school breaking fence posts, you can file the correct forms for that at Instagram and Blue Sky at FearCodedPod. But please make sure to keep that old stuff off our desk if we want this filing system to work.
And I don't know about the rest of you, but I am pretty sick of the ocean. But don't worry, Tyler, Marilee, and I are not afraid to get into the water after talking about Jaws. In fact, we're going to take a dip into a little place I know called Crystal Lake as we talk about the next summer blockbuster in our month-long celebration with Friday the 13th. But for now, we will simply say goodbye.
Goodbye.